culture. Let me ask you real quick. Who in here would agree that our culture, the world that we live in today, it's looking a little sketchy at times, right? If we look around the world, if we look around, just let's look at America in general with what we see what's going on in today's climate, within our government, within the way that as a generation of Generation Z and the other generations, when you start to look at it, you notice that faith is really, it's removed from the presence of what we see happening in today's day and age. Would you agree? I'm okay. We can talk today. It's all good. All right. Do you agree? Amen. Amen. When we look at post-Reformation of the church, that's really when we start to see the absence of faith in culture. We start to see that faith was removed from culture, and really that the church lost its voice within providing cultural values, boundaries, guidelines, moral codes, ethical codes, all those things. And so we really got to see from there that this has been something that's happening for hundreds of years. But now, being in the year 2019, we got to look at what's happening in today's day and age, and how do we as parents, church leaders, and students respond accordingly. Now, if you look at it from the church's perspective, if I look as a pastor myself and I look at what's happening, typically in the church world, we're seeing that churches are really good at building services, programs, structures, but they're really lacking in building big people. And so because of that, this is one of the key essential distractions that's happening that's not allowing for faith to be a prominent aspect of the culture that we live in today. Now we got to look at also the home. I believe that one of the biggest schemes that the enemy has been putting on is attacking the home, starting in marriages on down to the entirety of the family dynamic. And so when we see what God is trying to do here, it is a catalyst of trying to break through that family dynamic and seeing healthy relationships, not just between parents and kids, but parents with one another. Because that's the model for the kids as they're going to develop and grow up. And so ultimately, our job is to start encouraging and building healthy dynamics within the home so that we can see people thriving in who they're called to be. Now you're going to see this come full circle, because now what we got to look at with the kids. Now in today's day and age, the most prominent voice in a Generation Zer's life is technology. You look at all their information comes from Snapchat news and Instagram. They don't have news yet, but TV and all the other stories and all the things that play out that way. And so because of them being born into connectivity this way, because of being the very first 100% digitalized generation from the beginning of their life, what we see there is that connections in real life, real human connections, is becoming untrusted, and the only thing that they can trust is the falsehoods that they see projected on social media. And this has become an epidemic. And so slowly but surely, the enemy's been weaving himself in, killing dreams, passions, desires, stealing joy from the home, stealing unity from the home, and ultimately destroying the image of who Jesus Christ is and how he is supposed to be the most prominent figure in the culture that we live in today. Would you agree? So how do we defeat this? How do we battle this? Well, here's what I would say. First, to church leaders in here, the number one thing that you need to realize is that you have to stop trying to build big services and start build big people. That starts with your leadership first. If you're not developing leaders around you and building leaders around you, you're never going to see Jesus Christ's name infiltrate culture today. You got to see that you can't do it alone. And so it's time to start investing into people. Discipleship has to be key, because if you're not having discipleship, then what we're going to see is just a whole bunch of big fat Christians that are kicking back, consuming what we're putting out there. Next thing that we got to look at is within the home. Parents, unfortunately, you get a really bad rep in today's day and age that you didn't do it good enough, and that you did it wrong, and that you're a failure as a parent because your kid is suffering from depression, anxiety, or suicidal thoughts. That is such a lie from the pit of hell, that has been spoken over you and into you so that you can furthermore silence yourself and allow for the world to take over. And I just want to speak to all the parents in here today that you have a voice, that you are still relevant, that you are a person that can bring structure and discipline back into your kids' lives, that you should be the main voice into your students' life. Because you know what? It's not the church's job to raise your kids spiritually. It is your God-given authority to be speaking life into your kids and being the person that's guiding them, molding them, shaping them. As Jesus is leading you, you lead them. And we're going to see that back being modeled. There's dreams, desires, passions within you as a parent that is not done away with. And so I want to speak to that lie to say that you're washed up or you're no longer relevant, and say, get that out of your head, because God's not done with you. If you have breath in your lungs, just get ready. There's the best is yet to come. And you got to keep pressing in that God has more for you, because here's what it does. Now it gives an example to your kids. And so I want to speak to you kids in here. You're coming to this place with expecting, I got this big weighty decision. And I just want you to know that this decision is as big or as small as you make it. And how you position yourself is everything. Because if you get all caught up in the hype of the college choice, then what you're going to do is take your anxiety level from here all the way to here. You have control over that. But if you remember who you are created by, who you are defined by, and who is your leader, then if you position yourself in the place that, you know what, it doesn't matter what degree or vocation I'm pursuing after, it matters that I'm going to be a servant, not a specialist. I'm going to walk into this place of humbling myself, and I just want to love people the way that Jesus has loved me. I promise you, you will be successful in everything that you do. And so here's what I want to leave you with today. When it comes back to bringing faith into culture, you need to remember that you are a servant first, and that will propel you into the destiny that God has created you. Because in this room today are future leaders of the world, future CEOs of companies, future psychiatrists and psychologists and doctors and therapists. We're going to have teachers and professors, pastors, musicians, artists, and you are going to be the voice of the future. And so how do you want to align yourself? As somebody that is vocation first or servanthood first. And I believe that God has a calling in every person's life, and that this is your time to walk in that. Thank you very much.